Ambassador walked through the long hallway toward the council chamber. Her black shoes clicked against the metal floor of Nexus Prime, the biggest space station in the galaxy. Today would change everything, but the aliens didn't know it yet. Had been Earth's voice to the galaxy for 10 years. She had smiled when they insulted humans. She had stayed calm when they cheated Earth in trade deals. She had kept quiet when they treated her people like children. But today was different. The massive doors to the council chamber opened with a soft hiss. Inside, representatives from 43 different alien species sat in their floating chairs. The chamber was huge, with a dome ceiling that showed the stars outside. In the center was a small platform where speakers stood. Stepped onto the platform. Around her, the aliens made their usual sounds. They clicked and buzzed like giant insects. The crystal beings called the Resonance Collective made musical tones. The big, armored warriors growled and snorted. High Counselor 9 of the spoke first. His voice came through a translator that made it sound flat and emotionless. The human representative wishes to address the council. How strange. Usually you people just listen and do what you're told. Laughter filled the chamber, waited for it to stop. She had heard worse insults than this. Honored Council, began, her voice clear and strong. For 50 years, humanity has followed every rule you made for us. We gave you our food and our minerals. We stayed in the small part of space you allowed us. We never built weapons stronger than your laws permitted. We did all this to keep peace. War Chief of the Empire slammed his armored fist on his chair. And you should be grateful. Without our protection, your weak species would have been destroyed long ago. Looked directly at, the warrior was 3 times her size, covered in black metal armor. His red eyes glowed with anger. Most humans would have been scared, but just smiled coldly. We are grateful, she said. We learned much during these years. We learned about your technology. We learned about your weaknesses. We learned that strength without wisdom is just stupidity. The chamber grew quiet. Some of the aliens looked confused, others seemed angry. Continued. But we also learned that some of you see kindness as weakness. You attack our colony ships. You steal our people and sell them as slaves. You take our resources and give us nothing fair in return. You think we are too weak to stop you. Because you are too weak, shouted Ambassador of the Ethereal Syndicate. Your entire military is smaller than a single one of our battle fleets. Nodded, yes, that's what we wanted you to think. For 50 years, we showed you only what we chose to show you. We let you believe we were helpless. The crystal being called Resonance Prime made a sound like breaking glass. What does this mean? Are you threatening the council? No, said quietly. I am informing you. As of today, humanity formally withdraws from all military restrictions placed upon us by the Galactic Concordat. We will no longer limit our weapons, our ships, or our actions. The chamber exploded in angry voices. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. High Counselor 9 called for order. This changes nothing, 9 declared. Your species has perhaps 3,000 ships and 2 million soldiers. The Trade Consortium alone has 10 times that number. Reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple communicator, but the aliens didn't know what it really was. Counselor 9 is correct, said. According to your records, humanity has approximately 3,000 ships and 2 million military personnel. She pressed a button on the device. But your records are wrong, very wrong. High above the station, space began to shimmer. Slowly, like ghosts becoming real, human ships appeared. They were sleek and deadly, with armor that gleamed like black mirrors. They surrounded Nexus Prime completely. The aliens in the chamber stared at their screens in shock. The ships were bigger than anything humanity had ever shown before. They moved with perfect coordination, like dancers performing a deadly ballet. This is impossible, whispered. Our sensors would have detected them. Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect, replied. We have been watching you for decades. We know where your fleets are. We know your battle plans. We know your weaknesses. She looked around the chamber. Did you really think we would stay weak forever? Admiral Cross's voice filled the chamber, coming from the human fleet above. This is Admiral Sarah Cross of the Terran 5th Fleet. We are here to ensure Ambassador's safe departure from this station. Any hostile action will be met with appropriate force. The aliens looked terrified now. Some of them were trying to contact their own fleets, but their communications were being blocked. Put the device back in her pocket. For 50 years we asked for respect. We asked for fair treatment. We asked to be left in peace. You gave us insults, cheating, and attacks on our people." She walked toward the chamber's exit, then stopped and turned around. "From this moment forward, any attack on human worlds, any theft of human property, or any enslavement of human beings will be considered an act of war against Earth. We have spent decades preparing for this day. We are no longer the weak species you remember." Paused at the door. "We wanted to be your friends. We hoped to build a better galaxy together. You chose to see us as victims instead. Now you will see us as we really are." War Chief stood up from his chair. "You cannot threaten the entire galaxy. We will crush you." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "War Chief, you are welcome to try, but remember this moment when your fleets are burning. Remember that we warned you. Remember that we gave you every chance to choose peace." She walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the aliens sat in stunned silence. They had always seen humans as weak farmers and simple traders. Now they were learning the truth. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply chosen to appear that way. They had been patient, learning and growing stronger while their enemies became lazy and overconfident. The galaxy was about to discover that the greatest mistake you can make is underestimating someone who has been pretending to be weak. 3 months had passed since Ambassador walked out of the council chamber. The aliens thought her warning was just empty words from a scared species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. On the planet called New Titan, alien raiders from the Ethereal Syndicate attacked a human farming settlement. They expected easy targets, simple farmers with basic weapons. Instead, they found the settlement empty. When they landed their ships to investigate, human soldiers appeared from hidden bunkers. The entire raiding party was captured in less than an hour. Similar events happened across human space. Pirates tried to steal human cargo ships and found themselves surrounded by hidden warships. Warriors attempted to raid human colonies and discovered that the defenseless farmers were actually highly trained soldiers in disguise. But these small victories were just the beginning. Deep under the Swiss mountains on Earth, generals stood in a room that didn't officially exist. Complex 7 was buried 3 kilometers underground, hidden from all alien sensors. The room's walls showed holographic displays of star maps, ship positions, and battle plans. Around the table sat the most important people in human military command. President Terra represented Earth's civilian government. Admiral commanded humanity's hidden fleet. Doctor ran the secret research programs that had given humanity its technological edge. "Ladies and," General began, "for 73 years, we have been playing a very dangerous game. We convinced the galaxy that we were weak while secretly becoming the strongest military force in known space." President leaned forward. "Give us the real numbers. How strong are we really?" Touched a control, and the holographic displays changed. Instead of showing the small human fleet that alien intelligence services tracked, the new images revealed the truth. Massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, secret research stations disguised as mining platforms, manufacturing facilities that could build weapons faster than the Empire's best factories. 47,000 combat vessels announced. They range from small stealth ships to planet-killing dreadnoughts, 12 million active military personnel, with another 30 million ready for rapid deployment. Our weapons technology is approximately 200 years ahead of what the aliens possess. The room fell silent. Even President, who had authorized much of the secret spending, looked shocked at the true scale of humanity's hidden strength. Admiral spoke next. "Every major alien military installation has been infiltrated by our agents. We know their fleet positions, their command codes, their tactical plans. Some of our people have been undercover for 20 years or more." Doctor activated another display. "Our xenobiology research has identified critical weaknesses in every alien species. They communicate through quantum-linked brain implants. We can jam or disrupt their entire command structure. Battle rage makes them predictable and easy to outmaneuver. The crystal bodies of the Resonance Collective shatter under specific sound frequencies." "What about their technology?" asked President. "Inferior," Doctor replied bluntly. "They became overconfident after centuries of easy victories over primitive species. They stopped innovating. Meanwhile, we've been studying every piece of alien technology we could get our hands on, improving it, and developing countermeasures." Stood and walked to the main display. "The aliens think human space consists of 12 systems with small defensive forces. The truth is very different. The display showed the real extent of human territory, hidden colonies, secret military bases, and industrial complexes that had been built over decades of careful expansion. "How did we keep this secret for so long?" asked. "Misdirection," Admiral explained. "We showed them exactly what they expected to see. When alien trade ships visited our systems, they saw farming settlements and small factories. They didn't know about the underground shipyards or the hidden military bases. When they scanned our fleets, our ships were running in civilian mode with most of their weapons and armor hidden. Our greatest weapon," added Doctor, "was their own prejudice. They saw us as primitive farmers and never looked deeper. They assumed that because we started with simple technology, we couldn't have advanced beyond it." Returned to his seat. But the deception is ending. After Ambassador's announcement, alien aggression against human interests has increased dramatically. They're testing us, trying to see if our warning was real. "Are we ready?" President asked. "We've been ready for 20 years, Admiral replied. "Every human ship captain has been briefed. Every colony has hidden defenses. Every trade route is protected by disguised warships. The moment any alien force attacks us in significant numbers, they will discover what humanity has really been building." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, alien intelligence agencies were starting to notice strange patterns. Human ships were disappearing from normal trade routes, but not in ways that suggested they were being attacked. It looked more like they were simply going elsewhere. On Prime, the capital world of the Empire, War Chief studied reports from his intelligence officers. "Sir," reported Captain Grex, "our long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity in human space. Ships are moving in formations we've never seen before. Some of their vessels are giving off energy signatures that don't match our records." Growled, "Probably new trading ships. The humans are always trying to improve their pathetic technology by copying ours." But Captain Grex looked worried. "Sir, these energy signatures are actually more advanced than our own ships, and the formations suggest military organization, not commercial traffic." "Impossible," snarled. "Human military technology is decades behind ours. Our last intelligence assessment confirmed they have barely 3,000 combat vessels." What didn't know was that the intelligence assessment had been carefully fed to agents by human counterintelligence. The real human fleet was 50 times larger than his reports indicated. On the Hive Queen Prime was receiving similar confusing reports. Her drone scouts reported that several human colonies had simply vanished from their sensors. When investigation fleets arrived at these locations, they found empty space where thriving settlements should have been. "The humans are abandoning their colonies," reported her intelligence drone Prime. "They appear to be retreating to their core systems." Prime's compound eyes glittered with anticipation. "Excellent. They fear our retaliation for their ambassador's foolish words. Begin preparations for Harvest Fleet 7. We will claim these abandoned territories for our own expansion." But the human colonies hadn't been abandoned. They had been evacuated temporarily while hidden defense platforms were activated. When the Harvest Fleets arrived, they would find a very unpleasant surprise waiting for them. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their military might. It had been their patience. For decades, they had endured insults, accepted unfair treatment, and allowed themselves to be seen as weak, all while secretly building the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. The aliens had mistaken restraint for weakness. They had confused mercy with inability. They had assumed that because humans sought peace, they were incapable of war. They were about to discover how completely wrong they had been. War Chief stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dreadnought Blood Thunder. Around him, 11 other massive warships moved through hyperspace toward the human colony world of New Geneva. This would be easy, he thought. The humans would surrender quickly, or he would glass their pathetic farming world from orbit. "Dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds, reported his navigation officer. Smiled, showing his sharp teeth. New Geneva was a rich agricultural world that supplied food to a dozen human colonies. Taking it would hurt the humans badly and show the galaxy that their warning meant nothing. "All ships battle formation," he commanded. "Prepare to receive their surrender." Space twisted around them as the fleet dropped back into normal space near New Geneva. Expected to see a few small human patrol ships and maybe a defense platform or two. Instead, he saw something that confused him. The space around New Geneva looked almost empty. A few cargo ships drifted near the planet, along with a single human patrol vessel, a modest frigate called the TDF Defiance. "Sir," reported his sensor officer, "I'm only detecting one military vessel, a small frigate with minimal armament." Laughed loudly. "One frigate against 12 dreadnoughts? These humans have become even more pathetic than I thought." He activated the communication system and sent a message to the human ship. The flickered, showing the bridge of the Defiance. A human female in a blue uniform looked back at him calmly. Her nameplate read, Captain Santos. "Human vessel," growled, "I am War Chief of the Empire. You will surrender your cargo and prepare your planet for occupation. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your colony." Captain Santos smiled slightly. "War Chief, this is Captain Maria Santos of the Terran Defense Force. By the authority granted to me by the Global Defense Council, I order you to withdraw from human space immediately. This is your only warning." Stared at her in disbelief, then burst into laughter so loud that it echoed through his ship's corridors. "One frigate against 12 dreadnoughts? Human arrogance truly knows no bounds." "Perhaps," Captain Santos replied quietly, "but human patience has limits." Cut the communication and turned to his weapons officer. "Target that frigate and destroy it. Make it quick. I want to be in orbit in 5 minutes." "Yes, sir." The weapons officer began charging the ship's main cannons. But before the ships could fire, space around them suddenly erupted with brilliant flashes of light. Weapons fire came from seemingly empty void, striking the vessels with devastating accuracy. "What's happening?" roared. "Unknown contacts all around us," his sensor officer shouted in panic. "Dozens of ships, they're massive." On the impossible became visible. Human warships materialized out of nothing, their cloaking systems shutting down to reveal sleek predatory vessels. They moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the fleet like wolves circling prey. The largest ship was enormous, nearly 2 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. Its hull was black as space itself, and energy crackled between its weapon arrays. This was the TDF Nemesis, flagship of the Terran 5th Battle Group. "This is Admiral Sarah Cross," came a voice over the communication system. "War Chief, you are now surrounded. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Stared at his tactical display in horror. The screens showed 43 human warships in perfect battle formation. Their energy signatures were off the charts, far more powerful than anything in the databases. "Impossible," he whispered. "Your ships, your technology, this cannot be real." "Oh, it's very real," Admiral Cross replied. "We've had 70 years to prepare for this moment. Did you really think we would stay weak forever?" His pride wouldn't let him surrender. "All ships attack, show these humans the might of the Empire." The battle that followed was less of a fight and more of a demonstration. The dreadnoughts, pride of their military, fired everything they had at the human ships. Missiles, energy beams, and particle cannons lit up space with deadly fury. None of it mattered. The human ships moved like dancers, avoiding the weapons with impossible grace. Their own weapons cut through shields as if they didn't exist. Advanced point defense systems eliminated every missile before it could reach its target. Captain Santos, still on her small frigate, watched the battle with professional interest. "Admiral," she reported, "the weapons are exactly as predicted. Their energy frequencies are easily countered by our new shield systems." "Confirmed," Admiral Cross replied. "Continue the operation." One by one, the dreadnoughts were systematically disabled. The human weapons were precisely calibrated to destroy engines and weapons while leaving life support intact. They wanted prisoners, not corpses. The Blood Thunder shuddered as human weapons tore through its armor. Watched in growing terror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by enemies he had thought were helpless farmers. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "Ships 7 through 11 have lost all power. Ship 4 is requesting permission to surrender." "No surrender," roared. "We are warriors. We do not surrender to inferior species." But even as he spoke, his own ship's weapons went offline. Human boarding torpedoes pierced the hull, and armed soldiers in advanced power armor began cutting through his ship's corridors. Within 17 minutes of the first shot, The entire fleet was captured or destroyed. Not a single human ship had even taken damage. Sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed his ruined fleet. Everything he had believed about human weakness had been proven wrong. His soldiers, the finest warriors in the Empire, had been defeated by enemies they had thought were pathetic and weak. Admiral Cross appeared on his again. "War Chief, your ship is now under our control. You and your crews will be treated according to the laws of war, which is more mercy than you have shown human prisoners." Howe asked quietly, "How is this possible? Our intelligence reports said you had only primitive technology." "Your intelligence reports told you exactly what we wanted them to tell you," the Admiral replied. "Every piece of superior, alien technology you sold us, every weapons demonstration you gave us, every tactical manual we could access, we studied it all. Then we improved upon it." She leaned forward on the screen. "The student has become the master, War Chief. The question now is whether the rest of the galaxy will learn from your mistake." News of the battle spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The impossible had happened. A small human force had completely destroyed an elite battle fleet without taking a single casualty. On Prime, Hive Queen Prime received the report and refused to believe it. "This must be propaganda," she told her intelligence drones. "Humans cannot possess such advanced technology." But deep down, a cold fear was growing in her compound mind. If the reports were true, everything the galaxy thought about humanity was wrong. On the crystal world of the Resonance Collective, the ruling Council of Harmonies met in emergency session. Their perfect crystal bodies rang with worried tones as they discussed the implications. "If the humans have been hiding this level of military capability," sang Prime Resonance, "what else might they be hiding?" Across the galaxy, alien military commanders began frantically reviewing their intelligence files on humanity. What they found terrified them. The humans had been underestimated, dismissed, and mocked for decades. Now it seemed they had been secretly preparing for war while everyone thought they were weak farmers. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted overnight. The species everyone had thought was the weakest had revealed themselves as potentially the strongest. And this was just the beginning. 6 months after the Battle of New Geneva, the galaxy had become a very different place. What the aliens had thought would be a quick punishment of rebellious humans had turned into their worst nightmare. The Trade Consortium found their slave markets under constant attack. Human special forces appeared without warning, freeing captured beings and vanishing before security could respond. These weren't normal raids. The humans seemed to know exactly where to strike and when. Hive Queen Prime stood in her throne chamber, surrounded by the confused buzzing of her intelligence drones. "How do they know?" she demanded. "How do they know the locations of our most secret facilities?" Intelligence Drone Prime's compound eyes twitched nervously. "We suspect infiltration, my queen. Our security sweeps have found evidence that some of our own drones may have been compromised." "Impossible," Prime shrieked. "Our hive mind cannot be penetrated by alien minds." But she was wrong. For 20 years, human scientists had been studying captured technology. They had learned to mimic the quantum brain links that connected the hive mind. Human agents, surgically modified to appear as drones, had been living among them for decades. The proof came when the consortium's main slave processing facility on station vanished overnight. Not destroyed, vanished. The massive orbital platform simply disappeared from all sensors, along with its garrison of 10,000 soldiers. The truth was worse than destruction. Human engineers had used advanced technology to move the entire station into a pocket dimension. The garrison found themselves imprisoned in a place that technically didn't exist, while their former captives were freed and relocated to safe worlds. Meanwhile, the Resonance Collective was discovering that their crystal ships were not as invincible as they had believed. The crystalline beings had thought their diamond-hard bodies and crystal technology made them superior to all organic life. They learned otherwise when the first crystal fleet attempted to attack the human colony of New Hope. As the beautiful, musical crystal ships approached the planet, they suddenly began to shatter. The humans had developed sonic weapons specifically designed to exploit the resonance frequencies of crystalline structures. What had been the collective's greatest strength, their crystal nature, became their greatest weakness. Prime Resonance watched in horror as her flagship broke apart around her. The harmonic tones that her species used for communication became screams of pain as their crystal bodies cracked under the sonic assault. "Cease fire," she sang desperately to the human fleet. "We surrender." The sonic bombardment stopped immediately. Admiral, now commanding the human 7th Fleet, appeared on the communication screen. "Prime Resonance," said formally, "your fleet will stand down and submit to inspection. Any vessel that attempts to flee will be destroyed." "How did you know?" asked, her musical voice filled with defeat. "How did you know our weakness?" "We've been studying your people for 50 years, replied. "Every trade delegation, every cultural exchange, every piece of crystal technology you shared with us, we learned from all of it. Sound is just vibration, and vibration can be controlled." But the most shocking defeat came at the fortress world that served as military headquarters for the Empire. The planet was considered absolutely impregnable, protected by orbital defense platforms, and garrisoned by the Empire's finest warriors. The human assault on lasted exactly 7 hours and 43 minutes. General personally led the attack from the bridge of the massive human dreadnought, Retribution. The ship was a monument to human engineering, 3 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack moons. "All units begin Operation Hammerfall," commanded. The attack began with something that had never seen before human ships simply appeared inside the planet's defensive perimeter. The humans had developed teleportation technology that could move entire fleets across vast distances instantly. The orbital platforms opened fire, their massive cannons hurling projectiles that could destroy city-sized targets. The human ships absorbed the impact without taking damage. Their armor was made from materials that existed in multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, energy weapons passed through it harmlessly, while kinetic weapons were deflected by force fields. "Impossible," roared General, the planet's military commander. "Nothing can withstand direct hits from our fortress cannons." But the human ships not only survived the bombardment, they returned fire with weapons that made technology look like children's toys. Orbital platforms that had protected for centuries were vaporized in seconds. The ground assault was even more devastating. Human soldiers in advanced power armor dropped from their ships like falling stars. Each suit made its wearer faster and stronger than even the mighty warriors, while advanced sensors let them see through walls and around corners. Colonel James Murphy led the assault on the main fortress. His unit of 50 human soldiers faced down 10,000 defenders and won. The humans fought with tactical precision that the individualistic couldn't match. Where warriors relied on personal strength and courage, humans used teamwork and technology. They moved like parts of a single organism, each soldier knowing exactly where the others were and what they were doing. "Sir," reported Captain Grex, "the humans have breached sections 7 through 15. Our warriors cannot stop them." General watched the tactical displays in growing horror. Red indicators showed human forces advancing through his fortress like water flowing through cracks in stone. Nothing could slow them down. The end came when Colonel Murphy's team reached the fortress's command center. The massive doors, designed to withstand orbital bombardment, were cut through in minutes by human plasma torches. General found himself facing a human soldier whose armor made him look like a mechanical demon. Murphy's helmet retracted, revealing a face and cold blue eyes. "General," Murphy said formally, "I am Colonel James Murphy, Terran Marine Corps. You and your forces are now prisoners of war." Stared at this human who had just conquered the unconquerable fortress. "How long," he asked quietly, "how long have you been capable of this?" Murphy's answer sent chills through every alien who heard the recording later. "Since before we met you, we chose to appear weak. We chose to let you underestimate us. We chose to let you think you were superior." He removed his helmet completely, showing his unaltered human face. "That was our greatest weapon, your arrogance." The ethereal syndicate, masters of crime, discovered that their hidden bases were no longer hidden. The Soul Render, one of the syndicate's most powerful crime lords, was captured when human forces surrounded his flagship in what he thought was a completely secure pocket dimension. "You cannot be here," he shrieked at Admiral. "This dimension is beyond your primitive understanding." Smiled coldly. "Actually, our understanding of physics surpassed yours about 40 years ago. We've been watching you, learning from you, and preparing for this moment. The truth was devastating to alien morale. Humanity hadn't just been preparing for war, they had been studying their enemies with scientific precision. Every weakness had been, every strength had been countered. Every secret had been discovered. The galaxy that had mocked humanity for being weak farmers was learning that they had actually been facing the most patient and thorough military planners in known space. Species after species sent desperate messages to Earth, begging for mercy or offering surrender. The mighty empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was defeated and occupied. The trade consortium was broken apart, its slave markets closed forever. The ethereal syndicate existed only in history books. But perhaps the most shocking revelation was still to come. As alien governments collapsed and human forces secured their territory, historians began examining captured alien records. They discovered that humanity's technological advancement hadn't been as secret as they thought. The aliens had known that humans were becoming more advanced. They had simply chosen to ignore the evidence because it didn't fit their prejudices. The galaxy hadn't just underestimated humanity. They had actively blinded themselves to the truth because they couldn't accept that the primitive farmers might become stronger than them. Now they were learning the price of willful ignorance. 1 year after humanity's emergence as the galaxy's dominant power, Ambassador once again stood before the Galactic Council on Nexus Prime. But everything had changed. The massive chamber that once held hundreds of alien representatives now contained only 37. Many species had been dissolved or absorbed after the Correction War. Others had simply chosen to isolate themselves rather than face humanity's new order. Wore the same diplomatic uniform she had worn during her last visit, but now it carried new meaning. The simple blue fabric represented a power that could reshape the galaxy at will. High Counselor 9, one of the few leaders to survive the purging of their corrupt hive-mind hierarchy, approached the speaking platform with obvious fear. His insect-like body trembled as he spoke. "Ambassador," he began, his translated voice shaking, "the Galactic Council wishes to formally apologize for our past misunderstandings. We failed to recognize humanity's true nature." Nodded gracefully. "Your apology is accepted, Counselor. Humanity has never sought dominion through fear. We prefer cooperation to conquest, trade to tribute, and justice to revenge." "But you could," whispered Ambassador Eth of the gardener species. The plant-like being's leaves rustled nervously as she spoke. "You could rule us all, your military strength, your technology, your capabilities. Why show mercy to those who showed you none?" Turned to address the entire assembly. Her voice carried easily through the chamber, clear and strong. "Because that is what makes us human. Power without restraint is tyranny. We held back not because we were weak, but because we chose to be better than those who would abuse their strength." She activated a holographic display that showed the new Galactic Charter. The document was simple but revolutionary. It established rights and protections that had never existed before in galactic law. "Humanity proposes a new order," announced. "No species may enslave another. No government may commit genocide. No military may prey upon civilian populations. These are not requests, they are laws, enforced by human fleets if necessary." A young representative from the Spiral Confederation, one of the few species that had remained neutral during the war, raised a trembling appendage. "And if we refuse to accept these laws?" Smile was both warm and terrifying. "Then you will discover that what you have seen so far was still humanity holding back. We have weapons that can crack planets, technologies that can rewrite the laws of physics, and the will to use them if our principles are threatened." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But we would rather build schools, hospitals, and research stations. The choice, as always, is yours." The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, prime resonance of the crystal being spoke, her musical tones carrying through the chamber. "What guarantees do we have that humanity will not become like the tyrants you have replaced? Power corrupts all beings eventually." Had been expecting this question. "You have our history as guarantee. For 70 years, we possessed the power to dominate the galaxy. Instead, we chose to appear weak and work for peace. We only revealed our strength when forced to defend ourselves and the innocent." She gestured to the holographic charter. "More importantly, this document limits our own power as much as it protects others. Human forces will be subject to the same laws we ask you to follow. Any human military commander who commits war crimes will face the same justice as any alien criminal. Dr. Terra, humanity's new director of galactic affairs, stepped forward. To ensure transparency, we are establishing the Galactic Monitoring Network. Every species will have access to observe human military activities. Our fleets will operate under open protocols whenever possible. What about our sovereignty? Demanded General of the Hegemony Alliance. Will human ships patrol our space without permission? Consider the question carefully. Human fleets will only enter sovereign space under 3 conditions: to respond to direct attacks on human interests, to prevent genocide or slavery, or when formally invited by legitimate governments. We have no desire to be galactic police. But you will be, said Ambassador of the Traitor Coalition. Whether you want to or not, your power makes you responsible for galactic peace. Sighed, perhaps, but if that burden falls to humanity, we will bear it responsibly. We will protect the weak, punish the cruel, and preserve justice. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. One by one, the remaining galactic governments voted to accept the new charter. They had seen what happened to those who opposed humanity, not destruction, but transformation into something better. The former empire had been reorganized into independent worlds with democratically elected governments. The trade consortium's former territories were now free trade zones where slavery was punishable by exile to prison dimensions. Even the crystal worlds of the Resonance Collective had chosen to abandon their caste system in favor of individual freedom. As the formal ceremony concluded, found herself alone with her thoughts. Through the chamber's transparent walls, she could see human ships maintaining protective formations around Nexus Prime. They were beautiful vessels, sleek and powerful, but she knew their true strength lay not in their weapons, but in the restraint of those who commanded them. Admiral Sarah Cross joined her at the viewing wall. "Any regrets?" she asked quietly. "Many," replied. "We could have revealed ourselves decades ago and saved millions of lives. We could have prevented the worst abuses if we hadn't been so concerned with appearing weak." "But we also prevented a galactic war," Cross pointed out. "If we had shown our strength too early, every other species would have united against us. The casualties would have been unimaginable." Nodded, perhaps, but the galaxy will never trust us completely. They will always wonder if we might decide to rule them directly instead of protecting them from afar. "Then we'll have to prove them wrong," Cross said. "Every day, with every decision, we'll have to show them that we meant what we said, that we choose to be better." The conversation was interrupted by a communication alert. Activated her wrist display and saw the face of President calling from Earth. Said, "We've just received a distress call from the Outer Rim. A species called the is being invaded by something called the Devourers. They're requesting immediate assistance." And Cross exchanged glances. This would be the first real test of humanity's new role as galactic protectors. "How long to deploy?" asked. "Admiral Cross can have a battle group there in 6 hours," replied. "But the Never joined the Galactic Council. They have no formal relationship with humanity. Helping them would be pure altruism." Smiled. "Then it's the perfect opportunity to show the galaxy what humanity really stands for." She turned to Cross. "Admiral, prepare your ships. The galaxy is watching to see what kind of protectors we will be." As the human fleet prepared to depart for the Outer Rim, reflected on how far they had all come. A year ago, humanity had been seen as weak farmers suitable only for exploitation. Now they were the galaxy's reluctant guardians, responsible for protecting billions of beings across thousands of worlds. It was a heavy burden, but humanity had proven they could carry it. They had shown that strength without wisdom was meaningless, that power without compassion was tyranny, and that true victory lay not in defeating enemies, but in creating a better world for everyone. The galaxy had forced humanity to reveal their strength, and in doing so had discovered what they truly were, not conquerors or tyrants, but teachers and protectors who valued justice above power and mercy above revenge. Looked out at the stars and smiled. The galaxy had finally learned the truth about humanity. Now it was time to build something better together. Terra had warned them that humanity was holding back. They hadn't listened then. But they would never forget the lesson now.